The scorching sun of Arizona Territory hung low in the western sky as the wooden wheel of Willow Jenkins' covered wagon splintered with a sickening crack. She clutched her swollen belly, feeling the cramping pains grow stronger with each passing minute. It was the summer of 1885, and she was 19 miles from Holbrook with no one but herself, and the child growing inside her, a child who had decided this unfortunate moment was the perfect time to enter the world. "Whoa there," she said to her two horses, pulling on the reins and wincing as another contraction gripped her. The wagon listed dangerously to one side, the broken wheel rendering it useless. Willow's hands shook as she tied the reins to the brake lever and carefully climbed down, her dress billowing around her ankles as her feet touched the dusty ground. At 22, Willow found herself alone in the vast Arizona desert. Her husband Thomas had succumbed to pneumonia just 3 months prior, leaving her with nothing but their unborn child and dreams of a fresh start in Holbrook, where her cousin owned a small boarding house. Now, as the sun began its descent and the first labor pains grew more insistent, those dreams seemed impossibly distant. "Help!" she called out, her voice swallowed by the empty landscape. The nearest farm was at least 10 miles back, and Holbrook still lay far ahead. Panic rose in her chest as another contraction came, stronger than the last. She leaned against the wagon, trying to catch her breath as tears blurred her vision. In the distance, a lone rider appeared on the horizon, the silhouette growing larger as horse and rider approached at a steady pace. Willow squinted against the setting sun, hope and fear battling within her. In these parts, a stranger could mean salvation or danger. The rider drew closer, and Willow could make out a tall man atop a chestnut mare. His wide-brimmed hat shaded his face, but she could see he wore the practical clothing of a working cowboy: dusty denims, leather chaps, and a faded blue shirt. "Hello there," the man called out, his voice carrying across the distance. "Looks like you've had some trouble." As he rode up, Willow gripped the side of the wagon tighter, another contraction making her double over. "The wheel," she gasped through clenched teeth. "It broke, and I'm having a baby." The man dismounted quickly, his boots hitting the ground with a soft thud. He approached cautiously, removing his hat to reveal a shock of sandy brown hair and concerned green eyes in a sun-weathered face. "Name's Gabriel Carson," he said, his voice gentling as he took in her condition. "Ranch hand at the Double Cross, about 15 miles east of here." He glanced at the broken wheel, then back at Willow's pained expression. "How far apart are the pains coming?" "Maybe 10 minutes, Willow managed, relief flooding her at the kindness in his voice. "I'm Willow Jenkins. I was heading to Holbrook to my cousin's place." Gabriel nodded, his eyes scanning the horizon. The sun was setting rapidly, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "We won't make Holbrook tonight, not with you in labor and that wheel busted to pieces." He assessed the situation quickly. "There's a small creek about half a mile north with good shelter. We can make camp there." Another contraction hit, and Willow gasped, clutching her belly. Gabriel moved swiftly to her side, supporting her with a strong arm. "First baby?" he asked, helping her to sit on the wagon step. Willow nodded, tears streaming down her face. "My husband. He died 3 months ago. Pneumonia took him fast." Gabriel's face softened with sympathy. "I'm mighty sorry to hear that, Mrs. Jenkins." He looked at her wagon, then at his horse. "Can you ride?" "We need to get you someplace comfortable before nightfall." Willow hesitated, having never ridden astride. I don't know if I can." Gabriel thought for a moment, then said, "I'll unhitch one of your horses and gather what supplies we need. Then I'll help you onto my Bonnie here. She's gentle as a lamb." Working quickly, Gabriel unloaded essential supplies from Willow's wagon: blankets, a small pot, some food provisions, and her medical kit. He secured her horses, leaving one hitched to the wagon and preparing the other to carry their supplies. Once everything was ready, he helped Willow onto his mare, climbing up behind her to support her weight as they rode slowly toward the creek. The desert landscape transformed as dusk settled, the heat of day giving way to the cool embrace of evening. Stars began to appear, pinpricks of light against the deepening blue canvas above. Willow leaned back against Gabriel's chest, drawing strength from his steady presence as they rode. "How'd you come to be traveling alone in your condition?" Gabriel asked, his breath warm against her ear. Willow closed her eyes, trying to focus on answering rather than the pain. "After Thomas died, there wasn't much left for me in Prescott. The bank took our home. My cousin Mary wrote that I could help run her boarding house in Holbrook. It was my only choice." They reached the creek as twilight faded into night. A small cluster of cottonwood trees provided shelter, their leaves rustling gently in the evening breeze. Gabriel helped Willow dismount and quickly set about making camp, gathering firewood and laying out blankets beneath the largest tree. "How are those pains coming now?" he asked as he built a small fire. "Closer," Willow admitted, trying to keep fear from her voice. "Maybe 5 minutes apart." Gabriel nodded, his expression serious but calm. "I've helped birth plenty of calves and foals in my time. Even assisted Doc Wilson back in Texas when a ranch hand's wife couldn't make it to town. It's not my first time, though I reckon every birth is different." His matter-of-fact tone steadied her nerves somewhat. "I'm scared," she admitted. Gabriel knelt beside her, his green eyes reflecting the flickering firelight. "That's natural as can be, Mrs. Jenkins. But you're strong, I can see that plain as day. And you've got me to help you through this. I won't leave your side until you and your little one are safe." As night fully descended, Willow's labor intensified. Gabriel boiled water from the creek in her small pot and laid out clean cloths from her supplies. He helped her walk when she needed to move, supported her back when the contractions demanded she sit, and spoke to her in a low, soothing voice throughout. "Tell me about yourself," Willow requested between contractions, desperate for distraction. "Where are you from, Mr. Carson?" Gabriel smiled slightly as he dampened a cloth and wiped her forehead. "Originally from Missouri. Came west after the war. My father fought for the Union and didn't come home. Ma passed a few years later. I've been working cattle drives and ranch jobs since I was 16. He paused, checking the water he had boiling. "I'm 30 now, been with the Double Cross for about 3 years. A particularly strong contraction interrupted their conversation, making Willow cry out. Gabriel quickly moved to support her, his hands strong and sure. "Breathe through it," he encouraged. "That's it." When the pain subsided, Willow gasped, "The baby's coming soon, I can feel it." Gabriel nodded, his expression serious but steady. "Let's get you comfortable then." With gentle efficiency, he arranged the blankets beneath a magnificent canopy of stars, the fire casting enough light for him to see while keeping Willow warm in the desert night. As her labor progressed, Gabriel proved himself a capable assistant, respectful of her modesty, while providing the help she desperately needed. The hours passed in a blur of pain and effort for Willow. Gabriel remained a constant presence, supporting her physically and emotionally as she labored beneath the vast Arizona sky. He told her stories of his travels across the West, described the most beautiful landscapes he'd seen, and promised her that Holbrook was a decent town with good people. "You're doing wonderfully," he assured her as dawn approached. "Your baby will be here soon to see their first sunrise." Willow gripped his hand with surprising strength as another contraction built. "I can't do this," she whispered, exhaustion evident in her voice. Gabriel squeezed her hand gently. You can and you are. You're the strongest woman I've ever met, Mrs. Jenkins. As the first hints of light touched the eastern horizon, Willow felt an overwhelming urge to push. Gabriel positioned himself to help, his calm demeanor never faltering even as the moment of birth approached. "I can see the head," he announced, his voice filled with wonder. "Your baby has hair as dark as night. One more big push should do it." Gathering her remaining strength, Willow bore down with all her might. With a final, tremendous effort, her child slipped into Gabriel's waiting hands just as the first ray of sunlight crested the distant mountains. "You have a son," Gabriel said, his voice thick with emotion. "A beautiful, healthy boy." The newborn's cry split the dawn air, strong and insistent. Gabriel quickly cleaned the baby with warm water and wrapped him in a soft blanket before placing him in Willow's eager arms. "Hello, my little one," Willow whispered, tears streaming down her face as she gazed at her son's perfect features. "Hello, Thomas James Jenkins." She looked up at Gabriel, gratitude shining in her eyes. "We did it." Gabriel smiled, his own eyes suspiciously bright as he watched mother and child. "You did it, Mrs. Jenkins. I just helped a bit." After ensuring both mother and baby were comfortable, Gabriel tended to the fire and prepared a simple breakfast from their supplies. The morning sun rose higher, warming the desert air as Willow nursed her newborn son for the first time. "What happens now?" she asked softly as Gabriel handed her a cup of hot coffee. He sat beside her, his gaze thoughtful. "We rest today. You've been through an ordeal and need to regain your strength. Tomorrow I'll ride to Holbrook and bring back help for you and the little one." "Thank you," Willow said, the words wholly inadequate for what she felt. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along when you did." Gabriel shook his head. "No need for thanks. Anyone would have done the same." "Not anyone," Willow disagreed softly. "Not everyone would have shown such kindness to a stranger." As the day progressed, they settled into an easy rhythm. Gabriel cared for the horses, refilled their water supplies from the creek, and made sure Willow and baby Thomas were comfortable. They talked more freely now, the shared experience of the birth creating an unexpected bond between them. Willow learned that Gabriel had worked on ranches throughout the West, never staying in one place too long. He spoke of wanting to have his own land someday, a modest ranch where he could raise horses. His knowledge of the territory impressed her, as did his gentle way with her newborn son. "He likes you," Willow observed as Gabriel carefully held Thomas while she ate the stew he'd prepared. The baby had quieted instantly in the cowboy's large hands, staring up at him with unfocused newborn eyes. "He's a good judge of character then," Gabriel replied with a small smile. "Strong little fellow. He'll grow up to be a fine man someday." As twilight approached on that first day, Gabriel built up the fire to ward off the desert chill. Willow watched him move around their small camp, his movements efficient and purposeful. She couldn't help noticing the breadth of his shoulders, the strength in his hands that had so gently helped bring her son into the world. "Will you tell me about your wife, Mr. Carson?" she asked as he settled near her by the fire. Gabriel looked startled, then smiled ruefully. "No wife, Mrs. Jenkins. Never found the time or the right woman, I suppose. Please call me Willow," she said. "After what we've been through, formality seems unnecessary." He nodded, his expression softening. "Willow it is, then, and I'm Gabriel to you." They sat in comfortable silence as night fell once more, the stars appearing one by one until the sky was filled with their brilliance. Baby Thomas slept peacefully beside Willow, his tiny chest rising and falling in the rhythm of innocent slumber. "It's beautiful out here," Willow murmured, gazing upward. "I never took the time to really see the stars before." Gabriel followed her gaze. Out here, away from towns and people, you can see how vast it all is. Makes a person feel small but part of something bigger all at once. Yes, Willow agreed, finding unexpected poetry in his words. Exactly that. The night passed quietly. Gabriel insisted Willow take the better sleeping arrangement, fashioning a comfortable bed of blankets for her and the baby while he made do with his saddle for a pillow. Despite her exhaustion, Willow woke several times to nurse Thomas, marveling each time at the miracle of his existence. During one such wakeful period near dawn, she noticed Gabriel was also awake, sitting with his back against a tree trunk, keeping watch over them. "You should sleep," she said softly. He shook his head. "I'm fine, used to long nights on cattle drives." "Thank you for staying," Willow said, "for helping us." Gabriel's eyes met hers across the dying embers of the fire. "I wouldn't have it any other way." The second day brought new challenges. Though Willow felt stronger, she knew she wasn't ready for travel. Gabriel fashioned a better shelter using branches and her wagon cover, creating a small lean-to that offered protection from the sun. He hunted successfully, returning with 2 rabbits that he skillfully prepared for their meal. "You're quite capable in the wilderness," Willow observed as she watched him work. "I feel utterly helpless in comparison." Gabriel glanced up from skinning the rabbits. "You just brought a new life into the world, Willow. I'd say that makes you the capable one between us." His sincere words warmed her heart. Throughout the day, they continued to share stories. Willow told him about growing up in Illinois, moving west with her parents at 15, meeting Thomas at a church social when she was 18. Gabriel spoke of his years working on different ranches, the characters he'd met, and the landscapes he'd traversed. By the third day, Willow felt well enough to move around the camp more freely, though Gabriel insisted she rest frequently. He examined the broken wagon wheel and determined it couldn't be repaired with the tools they had available. "I should ride to Holbrook tomorrow," he said as they ate their evening meal. "Bring back a wagon for you and Thomas." Willow felt an unexpected pang at the thought of his departure, even temporary. "Is it safe for you to leave us alone?" Gabriel considered this. "The creek's been quiet, no sign of others passing through. But you're right to be cautious," he thought for a moment. "I could build you a better shelter first, leave you my revolver." "I've never fired a gun," Willow admitted. Gabriel studied her face, then nodded decisively. "Then I'll stay until you're strong enough to travel. We can ride double on Bonnie with Thomas between us. It'll be slow going, but safer than leaving you here." Relief flooded Willow's chest. "Thank you. I'm sorry to delay your return to the Double Cross." "The ranch will manage without me for a few days more," Gabriel assured her. "Besides, I wired the foreman from the last town I passed through that I'd be taking some personal time." They fell into a comfortable routine over the next 2 days. Gabriel cared for the horses and hunted for fresh meat, while Willow tended to Thomas and rested. In the evenings, they sat by the fire and talked, their conversations growing deeper and more personal with each passing night. On the 5th night, as a crescent moon hung in the star-studded sky, Gabriel hesitantly asked about her husband. "What was he like?" "Thomas, I mean," he said, poking at the fire with a stick. "If you don't mind my asking." Willow gazed down at her sleeping son. "He was a good man. Kind, hard-working, a carpenter by trade." She paused, considering her words carefully. "We had a content marriage, if not a passionate one. It was more arrangement than romance. At first my father approved of him, and I needed security after my mother died." Gabriel nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Did you grow to love him?" "In my way," Willow answered honestly. "We were partners, friends. He was excited about the baby." Her voice caught slightly. "He would have been a good father." Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. "I'm sorry you lost him." "So am I," Willow said softly. She looked up at Gabriel, studying his profile in the firelight. "What about you? There must have been women who caught your eye over the years." A small smile played at the corners of his mouth. "A few. There was a school teacher in Colorado some years back thought I might settle down then. But she wanted city life, not a dusty ranch," he shrugged. "Since then, it's been easier to keep moving." "Is that what you truly want, to keep moving always?" Willow asked. Gabriel's green eyes reflected the dancing flames as he considered her question. "No," he finally admitted. "I want roots. Land of my own. Maybe a family someday. Just haven't found the right place or time yet." Willow nodded, understanding in her eyes. "I hope you find it." The following morning, Gabriel announced that Willow seemed strong enough for the journey to Holbrook. "We'll leave at first light tomorrow," he said as he helped her wash the breakfast dishes in the creek. "It'll be a slow ride, but we should reach town by nightfall." Willow felt conflicted emotions at his words, relief at finally continuing her journey, yet sadness that their time in this peaceful sanctuary would end. Throughout the day, she found herself watching Gabriel more closely, memorizing the way he moved, the sound of his laugh, the gentleness with which he held her son. That evening, as they prepared for their departure the next day, a comfortable silence settled between them. Gabriel had built up the fire higher than usual, its warm light creating a cozy circle against the vast darkness of the desert night. Thomas slept soundly, his tiny face peaceful in slumber. "I've been thinking," Gabriel said suddenly, his voice low, "about what happens when we reach Holbrook." Willow looked up from folding a blanket. "What do you mean?" Gabriel met her eyes directly. "I don't feel right about just leaving you and Thomas at your cousin's and riding away." Her heart quickened at his words. "You've already done far more than anyone could expect, Gabriel." He shook his head, moving to sit beside her on the blanket. "That's not what I mean, Willow." He took a deep breath. "These past days, getting to know you and Thomas, it's made me think about those roots I mentioned." Willow felt warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with the nearby fire. "Gabriel, I know it's sudden," he continued hurriedly, "and I know you're still grieving Thomas, but I wanted you to know that if you ever need anything at all, I'd like to help. Maybe call on you properly once you're settled." The sincerity in his green eyes made Willow's breath catch. "I'd like that," she said softly. "Very much." Gabriel's face broke into a smile that transformed his features, making him look younger and carefree. Hesitantly, he reached out to take her hand. His palm was calloused from years of ranch work, but his touch was gentle as his fingers closed around hers. "I don't want to rush you," he said. "You've been through so much." "You haven't," Willow assured him. "These days with you, they've been unexpected in every way, but also wonderful." They sat in silence for a moment, hands joined, the fire crackling beside them. Then, with careful movements, Gabriel leaned forward and pressed his lips to her forehead in a gesture so tender it brought tears to Willow's eyes. "Get some rest," he murmured. "We have a long journey tomorrow." Willow slept more peacefully that night than she had since Thomas's death, waking at dawn feeling refreshed and hopeful. Gabriel had already prepared a light breakfast and was checking the horses when she emerged from the lean-to with baby Thomas in her arms. "Beautiful morning," Gabriel greeted her with a smile that made her heart flutter. "It is," she agreed, noting how the rising sun painted the desert landscape in soft pinks and golds. They ate quickly, then packed their few belongings. Gabriel dismantled the lean-to, returning Willow's wagon cover to her pack. He checked Thomas's swaddling, ensuring the baby was secure before helping Willow mount Bonnie. Once she was settled, he climbed up behind her, one arm securely around her waist as he took the reins with his free hand. "Ready?" he asked, his breath warm against her ear. Willow nodded, cradling Thomas against her chest. Ready. They rode at a leisurely pace, Gabriel careful not to jostle mother or child. The second horse followed behind, carrying their supplies. The desert was coming alive around them. Birds called from the sparse vegetation. Small creatures darted across their path, and in the distance, a family of pronghorn antelope watched their progress with cautious eyes. "What will you do once we reach Holbrook?" Willow asked as they stopped near midday to rest in the shade of a rocky outcropping. Gabriel handed her a canteen of water. "Find work, I suppose. There's usually ranch hands needed somewhere." He hesitated, then added, "Though I might stay in town a while. The double cross will hold my job if I decide to return." Willow smiled down at Thomas, who was contentedly nursing. "My cousin's boarding house always needs repairs. She mentioned it in her letters." Gabriel caught her meaning and grinned. "I'm handy with tools. Worked as a carpenter's assistant for a spell in Denver." "Is that so?" Willow replied, unable to keep the pleasure from her voice. "What a fortunate coincidence." They continued their journey after a brief rest. As the hours passed, Gabriel pointed out landmarks and shared stories of the territory. His knowledge impressed Willow, as did his constant attentiveness to her comfort and Thomas's needs. By late afternoon, they crested a small rise, and Gabriel pointed to a cluster of buildings in the distance. "Holbrook," he announced. "We'll be there before sunset." Willow felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. Their arrival in town would mark the end of their private idyll and the beginning of whatever might come next. As they drew closer to civilization, she found herself leaning back against Gabriel's solid chest, treasuring these final moments of their journey together. Holbrook in 1885 was a growing settlement, its streets busier than Willow had expected. The railroad had reached the town 2 years prior, bringing increased commerce and population. Adobe buildings mingled with wooden structures along the main street, and the sounds of human activity, conversations, hammering, a piano playing in a saloon filled the air. Gabriel guided Bonnie through town, asking directions to Mary Jenkins' boarding house from a helpful shopkeeper. They found it on a side street, a 2-story wooden building with a wide front porch and a hand-painted sign declaring Jenkins Boarding House, clean rooms, fair prices. As they dismounted, the front door opened and a woman in her 30s hurried out, her expression shifting from curiosity to shock. "Willow, is that you? We've been worried sick." She rushed down the steps, then stopped short at the sight of the baby in Willow's arms. "Good heavens!" "Hello, Mary," Willow said with a tired smile. "This is Thomas James. He arrived a bit earlier than expected. And this," she added, turning to Gabriel, "is Mr. Gabriel Carson. He saved both our lives." Mary's gaze shifted to Gabriel, assessing him quickly before a warm smile spread across her face. "Then you're welcome here, Mr. Carson. Very welcome indeed." In the days that followed, Willow settled into life at the boarding house. Mary proved to be a kind and supportive cousin, doting on baby Thomas and insisting Willow take all the time she needed to recover before helping with chores. Gabriel found lodging at the modest hotel across town but visited daily, often bringing small gifts, a rattle for Thomas, fresh fruit for Willow, flowers from the mercantile. True to Willow's suggestion, Mary hired Gabriel to make repairs around the boarding house. He fixed the sagging back porch, replaced rotten floorboards in 2 of the guest rooms, and built a proper cradle for Thomas. His skilled work and friendly demeanor made him popular with the boarders, mostly railroad workers and travelers passing through. As weeks passed, Gabriel became a fixture at the boarding house. He took his evening meals there, often staying late to talk with Willow after the other boarders had retired. They would sit on the front porch swing, Thomas sleeping nearby in his cradle, and talk about everything and nothing, their pasts, their hopes, the simple events of the day. One evening in late September, as they watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues, Gabriel took Willow's hand in his. "I've been saving," he said quietly, "from the repair work and what I had put by before. There's a small place for sale on the edge of town, nothing fancy, but it has good water and enough land for a small horse breeding operation." Willow's heart quickened. "Are you thinking of staying in Holbrook permanently?" Gabriel turned to face her, his green eyes serious. "That depends." "On what?" she asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. "On whether there's someone worth staying for." He squeezed her hand gently. "Willow, I know it's only been a few months since we met. I know you're still finding your way after Thomas's passing, but I've never felt for anyone what I feel for you." Tears pricked Willow's eyes. "Gabriel, let me finish," he said softly. "That night under the stars when Thomas was born, I felt something change in me. Watching you bring new life into the world, seeing your strength, your heart, it woke something in me I didn't know was sleeping." He took a deep breath. "I'm falling in love with you, Willow Jenkins, and with that little boy too." Willow's tears fell freely now. "I never expected this," she whispered. "When my wagon broke down that day, I was so frightened, so alone, and then you appeared like an answer to a prayer I hadn't even known to make." Gabriel reached up to brush a tear from her cheek. "I'm not asking for promises right now. Just for the chance to court you properly. To see if what I feel, what I hope you might feel too, could grow into something lasting." Willow leaned into his touch. "I'd like that very much." As autumn progressed, Gabriel's courtship of Willow became the talk of Holbrook. He called on her properly 3 evenings a week, bringing small gifts and taking her for walks through town. On Sundays, they attended church together, little Thomas dressed in his best clothes, the 3 of them looking very much like a family already. Gabriel purchased the small ranch he'd mentioned, working tirelessly to make it habitable. Willow helped when she could, offering suggestions for the house while Thomas napped in a makeshift cradle. By November, Gabriel had acquired 3 quality mares and a stallion, the beginning of his horse breeding dreams. As Christmas approached, the boarding house bustled with activity. Mary and Willow decorated with pine boughs and ribbon, and the kitchen filled with the aromas of holiday baking. Thomas, now nearly 6 months old, watched the preparations with wide eyes, fascinated by the colorful decorations and the constant stream of visitors. On Christmas Eve, after the boarders had retired and Mary had gone to bed, Gabriel asked Willow to bundle up Thomas and join him for a short ride. Curious, she agreed, wrapping the baby warmly against the December chill. Gabriel drove a small buggy, taking them out of town toward his ranch. The night was clear and cold, stars brilliant in the black sky above. When they arrived, Willow was surprised to see lights glowing in the windows of the small ranch house. "What's this?" she asked as Gabriel helped her down from the buggy, Thomas secure in her arms. "I wanted to show you something," he replied with a smile, leading her to the door. Inside, the ranch house had been transformed. A small Christmas tree stood in one corner, decorated with paper ornaments and candles. A fire burned cheerfully in the hearth, and the simple furniture gleamed with polish. On the mantelpiece sat the cradle Gabriel had made for Thomas, now painted white with tiny stars decorating the headboard. "Gabriel," Willow breathed, taking in the cozy scene. "It's beautiful." He helped her remove her coat, then took Thomas from her arms, settling the drowsy baby in the cradle. "I wanted you to see it finished, to see what it could be." Willow walked slowly around the room, touching the curtains at the windows, running her hand along the smooth surface of the dining table. "You did all this yourself," Gabriel nodded, with a little help from some friends. He watched her explore the space, his expression hopeful. There's more. He led her through to a small bedroom where a handsome walnut bed stood, covered with a colorful quilt. A rocking chair sat by the window, and a dresser with a mirror completed the furnishings. "And one more," he said softly, opening another door to reveal a smaller bedroom, empty except for a child's bed and a small chest of drawers. "For Thomas when he's older." Willow turned to Gabriel, her heart full. "You've created a home." "Not yet," he said, taking both her hands in his. "A house, yes, but it won't be a home until—" He dropped to one knee before her, still holding her hands. "Willow Jenkins, I love you. I love Thomas as if he were my own son. I want to build a life with you both. Will you marry me?" Tears spilled down Willow's cheeks as she looked into his hopeful green eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Gabriel, I love you too." His face lit with joy as he rose and gathered her into his arms. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, but filled with promise. When they parted, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. "I want to be a good husband to you," he murmured. "A good father to Thomas." "You already are," Willow assured him, her hands resting on his chest. "You've been caring for us both since the moment we met." They married on New Year's Day, 1886, in Holbrook's small church. Mary stood as Willow's witness, holding Thomas during the ceremony. The townspeople filled the pews, having embraced the romance that had blossomed in their midst. Gabriel wore a new suit purchased for the occasion, while Willow wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes. Their vows were straightforward but heartfelt. Gabriel promised to love and cherish Willow and Thomas for all his days. Willow promised to stand by Gabriel's side through whatever life might bring. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Gabriel kissed his bride with such tenderness that several women in the congregation dabbed at their eyes. The reception at the boarding house was a joyous affair, with music and dancing lasting well into the evening. As sunset approached, Gabriel and Willow slipped away with Thomas, traveling to their ranch to begin their life together as a family. The years that followed brought both joys and challenges. Gabriel's horse breeding business grew steadily, his eye for good stock earning him respect throughout the territory. Willow established a small vegetable garden that expanded each year, eventually producing enough for them to sell excess produce in town. Thomas grew into a sturdy, curious boy with his mother's blue eyes and a love for horses that delighted Gabriel. He followed his adoptive father everywhere, learning the business from the ground up. Gabriel legally adopted him on his 5th birthday, a day of celebration that Thomas later said was one of his happiest memories. In the spring of 1888, Willow gave birth to a son they named Michael Gabriel Carson. 2 years later, a daughter joined their family, Emma Rose. The ranch house expanded along with their family, Gabriel adding rooms and a larger kitchen as their prosperity increased. Their life wasn't without hardship. Arizona Territory could be unforgiving. Droughts threatened their water supply one year, and a harsh winter claimed 2 valuable horses another season. But through each challenge, the bond between Willow and Gabriel only strengthened, their partnership proving resilient in the face of adversity. On warm summer evenings, they often sat on the porch Gabriel had built, watching their children play in the yard as the sun set behind the distant mountains. During these quiet moments, Willow would sometimes think back to that desperate day when her wagon wheel broke, marveling at how what had seemed like disaster had led her to such happiness. "What are you thinking about?" Gabriel asked one such evening, his arm around her shoulders as they sat side by side. Willow leaned into him, watching 13-year-old Thomas teaching 7-year-old Michael to throw a lasso while little Emma, now 5, supervised with all the authority her small frame could muster. "I was thinking about stars," she replied, "about how sometimes what looks like the darkest night can reveal the most beautiful light." Gabriel pressed a kiss to her temple, understanding her meaning. "That night under the stars was the beginning of everything good in my life," he said quietly. "Mine too," Willow agreed, turning to meet his lips with hers. Their love, born in a moment of crisis beneath the vast Arizona sky, had grown into something neither could have imagined. That fateful evening, a family, a home, a life rich with purpose and joy. What had begun with a broken wheel had become a journey neither would trade for all the gold in the West. In 1910, 25 years after their first meeting, Gabriel and Willow celebrated their silver wedding anniversary surrounded by family and friends. Thomas, now a respected horse trainer with a wife and children of his own, raised a toast to the parents who had given him a name, a home, and an example of love that had shaped his life. "To my mother, whose courage has never ceased to inspire me," he said, his voice carrying across the gathered crowd. "And to my father, not by birth, but by choice, and by love, who taught me that true strength lies in gentleness, and that the greatest adventures often begin when we stop to help someone in need." Gabriel, his sandy hair now streaked with silver, squeezed Willow's hand as they stood to acknowledge the toast. In her blue eyes, he still saw the brave young woman who had brought her son into the world under a canopy of stars, the woman who had given him the home and family he'd always longed for. And Willow, looking at her husband's beloved face, remembered the moment she'd first seen him riding toward her broken wagon, a silhouette against the setting sun, becoming clearer with each step his horse took toward her. That approach had never really ended, she thought. 25 years later, they were still moving toward each other, still discovering new depths to their love with each passing season. In the end, what had begun as chance, a broken wagon wheel, a cowboy passing by, had proven to be something far more profound. Some might call it luck or coincidence. But standing beneath the same Arizona stars that had witnessed their beginning, Willow and Gabriel Carson called it by its true name: destiny.